Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to guide you through this material today because we are going to do something a little different. We're going to step directly into the shoes of one of history's absolute greatest conquerors. We're talking about the architect of an empire, a guy whose name literally echoes across millennia. But we're not just going to sit here and list off dry dates and facts. No way. We're going to dig deep into the internal drive, the unique leadership style, and the sheer, unfiltered ambition that built a legend.
Right off the bat, I want you to picture this. You are only 20 years old. Really put yourself in that high-pressure scenario for a second. Most people at 20 are, just trying to figure out their college major or starting a new job. But in this scenario, you just inherited an entire kingdom. And within a few short years, you're going to conquer the largest empire the world has ever seen. Your name is Alexander. And history? Well, history is going to call you Alexander the Great.
Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the Prince of Macedon. Then look at a 20-year-old king. After that, we'll cover invading Persia, pushing to the world's edge, and finally, the final journey.
Okay, let's jump straight into part 1, the Prince of Macedon.
So you're born in 356 BCE in Macedon, and man, from day one, the expectations placed on your shoulders are just crushing. Your dad is King Philip II. He's already an absolute legend, a master of diplomacy and traditional phalanx warfare. He's this incredibly careful political operator. Those are some massive, massive shoes to fill. But you don't just want to manage a kingdom using your dad's careful playbook. From a super young age, you are driven by this unyielding, almost fiery belief that you are uniquely destined for greatness. You're not about slow and steady. You favor high-speed, hyper-aggressive cavalry charges. You want to be right there, leading from the front line. You've got this internal fire telling you to completely shatter every expectation and surpass everything that came before you.
Now, as any good history student knows, a military background alone isn't enough to rule the known world. Your education is just as crucial. So, time for a quick pop quiz. Who actually provided the intellectual foundation for this young king? Who shaped your strategic mindset and the massive political choices you'd end up making? If you guessed Aristotle, you absolutely nailed it. We're talking about one of history's greatest philosophers. He was literally your personal tutor, which proves your foundation wasn't just built on swinging a sword. Aristotle taught you science, politics, war, leadership, the whole shebang. And crucially, he really instilled this idea of Hellenic superiority in you. That specific teaching provided the vital intellectual framework that you'd later use to justify massive eastward conquests and your political mission to spread Greek culture everywhere you went.
All right, moving into section 2, a 20-year-old king.
Just when things are getting started, the unthinkable happens. Tragedy strikes out of nowhere. Your father is assassinated, and boom, you are thrust onto the throne at just 20 years old. Imagine the absolute shock, the intense grief, and the overwhelming emotional turmoil of realizing the weight of a highly unstable world has just dropped squarely onto your shoulders. It's a terrifying moment. A lot of your enemies look at you and just laugh. They think, this kid is way too young to rule. Cities immediately start rebelling, and rival nations start prepping for war because they assume Macedon is weak and basically ripe for the taking.
Well, those enemies were about to learn a very harsh lesson. Sure, you face the immense duty of securing your dad's throne and holding a fracturing kingdom together. But that sense of duty, it was almost instantly eclipsed by the massive, gravitational pull of your own personal ambition. You are not your father. You are so much more ambitious. You quickly proved to everyone that you weren't just checking boxes to keep the peace. You were chasing a much wilder, entirely personal greatness. It's this perfect, terrifying transition from an educated young prince into a ruthless, visionary conqueror.
Which brings us to section 3, invading Persia.
Right across the sea lies the Persian Empire. We are talking about the most powerful, sprawling empire on Earth at the time. Most rulers in their right mind would completely avoid poking that bear, but you march straight toward it. You launch into an invasion that literally everyone thought was impossible. And the craziest part is, you don't just win, you completely innovate the art of war. You achieve these impossible victories over vastly larger forces through absolute tactical genius. Take the decisive Battle of Gaugamela, for example. You're facing this massive Persian army, and what do? You employ brilliant tactical traps. You intentionally draw their terrifying scythed chariots into specific, angled gaps you left in your infantry line, completely neutralizing their deadliest weapon. And you aren't hiding in the back giving orders either. You embrace extreme personal risk. You're right there, leading the elite companion cavalry yourself, aiming your wedge formation directly at the Persian king, Darius. Imagine the adrenaline, the internal terror, and the absolute thrill of breaking those enemy lines. By relentlessly motivating your troops and using these incredibly innovative techniques, you caused the mighty Persian Empire to entirely collapse.
Next up, Section 4. To the world's edge.
So, you've defeated Persia. For 99% of people, that's enough glory for 10 lifetimes. But for you, not even close. Your relentless drive for greatness couldn't be satisfied with just one empire. You have to keep going, pushing your army into total geographic extremes. You march from the welcoming, fertile deltas of Egypt, where, by the way, you found the city of Alexandria to anchor Greek influence. And then you just keep pushing eastward. You force your army straight into the brutal, freezing passes of the Hindu Kush Mountains. Then down into the completely unforgiving, arid deserts of Gedrosia, navigating wild, treacherous, and unknown rivers along the way. Think about the sheer logistics of that. Navigating these vast, diverse landscapes required unparalleled planning, and this constant, dynamic ability to keep your troops motivated when they were suffering. You are pulling your army into literally unknown worlds, stretching the boundaries of your empire farther than anyone alive thought possible.
And that brings us to our final section, the final journey.
Eventually, you are forced to confront the ultimate leadership friction. On one hand, your mind is still completely consumed by this relentless drive for glory. You constantly want to push eastward. You literally want to find the edge of the world. But on the other hand, your army's reality is entirely different. They are physically and mentally broken. After years of continuous war, marching across literal deserts and freezing mountains, they have this desperate, overwhelming desire to just finally go home. And that creates an intense, mutinous tension that even your tactical genius can't outmaneuver. This is the ultimate test of your leadership style. How do you manage an exhausted, resistant army when your own internal fire refuses to go out?
In the end, the incredible journey does stop, but it doesn't end in some glorious final clash on the battlefield. At just 32 years old, your life ends in total mystery. You likely succumb to a sudden and severe illness in Babylon, but honestly, it remains one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles. No one knows exactly what happened. But this sudden, shocking early death, it forever shaped how your massive achievements are viewed by the world. It basically froze you in time at the absolute height of your power.
And because of that, over 2,000 years later, your legacy persists. Your life was tragically short, yeah, but your brief, explosive empire fundamentally changed the globe forever. The spread of Hellenistic culture, the amazing cities you founded, and the military impossibilities you achieved, they laid the very groundwork for modern Western civilization. That is exactly why your bold strategies and sheer audacity are still being studied by history students like you today.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply important question to wrap up our explainer today. Why do we actually remember him? Do we remember Alexander because of what he inherited or what he relentlessly chased? He went from a young kid inheriting a highly unstable throne in Macedon to the ruler of a vast, unprecedented empire, remembered forever by just one name, Alexander the Great. I really want you to reflect on that difference between mere inheritance and the active, unstoppable pursuit of greatness. Thank you so much for learning with me today, everyone. Keep chasing your own greatness, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.